Here we go. We're just waiting for Daryl to wake up in Vancouver. He's going to come on and watch this. So it's 6 o'clock his time. He's happy to be up. He just texted you. He's awake, is he? Thank you, Michael. Oh, welcome, everyone. We're just going to get Daryl here. Help yourself to some coffee and cold drinks. We brought some donuts for the kids. So there's a few left over. Some adults can have one as well. There we go. Thank you. So as soon as Daryl's on, let me know if he's ready to go. Daryl's on. We're all good? We're all good to go? Thank you.
Good.
We're good. Thank you. Well, there we go. Now, how many people every day get a chance to do something they really believe in? You might have heard from our friend Canadian William Shatner as he went up into space on Blue Origin shuttle to say that recently. But thanks to the teachings of his parents, Betty and Rolly, Daryl, Fred, and his sister Judy, over 1 million students have learned these words were indeed from Terry Fox. Terry was determined to complete the Marathon of Hope to raise money to find a cure for cancer, and he was not fazed by the challenge. Terry said, "Dreams are made possible if you try." Good morning, everyone. My name is Craig Jarvis, Chair of the Legacy Art Project. It's my pleasure to host you to what will be certainly maybe a wet but uplifting, emotional, and inspiring event this morning. Now, let us start by recognizing the land we stand on. I'd love to introduce my wife, Judy, for her land rights acknowledgement. Would you like to come up, Judy? Here.
Good morning. I'd like to share a land acknowledgement, and I've given this some thought and hope you can take something away from it. As a Canadian today, my heart is filled with sorrow by the devastating acts of racism and the reprehensible deaths of Indigenous children in the residential school system. Still, I stand here before you to say that I'm a proud Canadian. It is a privilege to have been born in this country. But what I'm not so proud of is that we've been taught a single dominant narrative of a version of history. I understand there are many histories to learn and learn from. The learning begins by acknowledging the land upon which we gather as the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee. This territory was the subject of the dish with one spoon, Wampum Belt Covenant. And as dwellers on this land, we accept our responsibility to adhere to the rules of this treaty, being, take only what you need, leave some for everybody else, keep it clean. We recognize the long process of colonization has led us to where we stand today. We pledge to disrupt these legacies through ongoing education and by supporting projects that honor rich and complex cultures, remember historical traumas, recognize past, present, and future achievements of the First Peoples of Canada. And if we can accept and most importantly act on this pledge, and if we can be the voice of tolerance, we can all be abundantly proud Canadians.
Thank you, Judy, for those warm words. Much appreciated. For those of you who have not heard about Legacy Art Project, not to worry. We're just as happy to be without the publicity. This citizens-led, non-for-profit, with the support from diverse members of the Toronto community, was created to help keep Terry's dream alive in Toronto through public art. We're working with the city on 2 permanent
Recording in progress.
Recording in progress. No one told me I'm going to be recorded. I'll do that again. And so we have, we're working with the city on 2 permanent installations to create a setting to inspire visitors, ignite passion, spark action, and create impact. You'll have to wait a few weeks for other projects. However, today we're looking forward to learning more from our talented artists today to share their beautiful murals. It is now my privilege to introduce one of Toronto's biggest Terry Fox supporters. But before I do, I want to share my sincere appreciation for his entire team and their professionalism and dedication during the last 18 months. Now, I'm not talking about dealing with COVID. I'm talking about dealing with me, as I'm enough to exhaust any administration. I'm surprised his team is still answering my calls. The fact that he is present here today exemplifies what leadership is all about. We are very fortunate to have such a caring, dedicated, inclusive mayor to look after our beautiful city. A warm welcome, please, for outstanding mayor, the Honourable John Tory.
Well, good morning. Craig did not give you full, plain and true disclosure that we've been friends for probably 30 years. But you can also see, and I say this in the most sincere way, you know, I get described by one of the morning talk show hosts on radio as the city's mascot. I'm not sure how exactly I got to that exalted status. Craig is sort of the mascot for the Jarvis family, but the real, you know, the real heart and soul is Judy, because you can tell that from that magnificent. You know, I said to her, I hear a land acknowledgement probably 50 times a week. You know, and they're all sincerely meant, but that was something that came from her heart, and I think probably reflected the thoughts of a lot of us. And these are two people, Craig and Judy, who, if you knew of all their community works and their charitable works and the zeal with which they take on, together with members of their family, things like this. You know, they've been doing things. Craig commissioned a musical about Terry Fox that I went to see. I think it was in Waterloo, and it was extraordinary. And you know, what I wanted to say today, and I want to acknowledge them, and I'll do that just before I talk. I want to acknowledge Daryl's presence with us, who I think is going to be with us virtually, and I thank him for getting up so early. The U of T is a partner in this, which is terrific because it's all about partnerships. The artists, Cristiano, Keitha, Emmanuel, Jason, Alexander, and Q. These are people to be celebrated, and I'll talk just a little bit about that. It sounds like it's going to be a long speech, but it won't. We have an advisory committee who are helping us to select what ultimately gets put up by way of a mural, and then finally the people that Craig mentioned, because I am, whether they want it or not, I guess I am their mascot, but I'm certainly their representative here. A great team of people from the City of Toronto who are part of our street art team and part of our Artworks team, and people who work day in and day out as public servants. And certainly one thing I've come to learn in this job is how dedicated and professional our public servants are. I see their work and I work with them each and every day. This kind of thing is important, that it brings together Terry Fox and the Year of Public Art and the entirety of our commitment to artists in the city. I'm worried that there's something going on in this country right now. Judy's words were so meaningful to me because she talked about what a privilege it is to be a Canadian. And if you look even at the pandemic, or you look at 1,000 other things you could look at, we're so lucky to live in this country and in this city, within this country. But there is something going on in the country that sees people coming apart and sees people more polarized with each other and using language and tactics and behavior that just really isn't befitting the way of life that I think we cherish so much and why we feel so privileged to be Canadians. And what I think can bring that back together are two things put together like Terry Fox and like artists and public art, or art of all kinds. Because if you think about it, what we need is things to bring us together. We need things to bring us together at a time when we're under great stress. And we've been under great stress not just because of the pandemic. I think that added to it a huge amount, obviously. But I think there were tensions that were, for some reason, bubbling under the surface before that were just not consistent with the way of life that we cherish. And so I actually had conceived of having a Year of Public Art back in 2018. And then it got postponed because of the pandemic, and now it's finally happening, and I'm so proud. And some of the people here, Pat Tobin and Joe Sellers, that are leading that, and they have a team, and I'm sorry I wouldn't name all of them, but there's a great team. And what that was meant to do was to use the power of art to inspire people, but make it public art so that it was accessible to people. You didn't have to pay, or you didn't have to sort of go anywhere far. You could see in your own neighborhood some of the stories of Toronto, some of the stories that relate to our Indigenous communities, or to, you know, many different aspects of life in Toronto. And it would celebrate those artists. And, you know, I mean, being an artist is a tough calling. And then it became tougher because of the pandemic, and this is a chance for them to, after a very tough period, to show their magnificence and tell our stories, not just their stories, these are our stories they're telling, to have the soul of the city emerge out of that art and have everybody able to see it in different ways. And then you combine that with Terry Fox. And Terry Fox did what he did, and it was so extraordinary. I mean, he was an artist of a certain kind himself in terms of conceiving of and doing that, but it was so courageous and so inspirational and so important to bringing this country together. If you think about it, right here on this street 41 years ago, people stood here. And it was in Toronto where I think the marathon really took off. I mean, people had been taking note of it and following it and so on. But people really took note of it, and of course, long after his unfortunate passing, that's when it has had as extraordinary a life, his marathon, as it did when he was doing it and when he was alive. Because people are so inspired by what he did, but they're also inspired by what he's doing today. His persona is still so much alive, helping other people who are stricken with cancer or who will be, or maybe who won't be because of what he did. And so that's why things like this are so important. And I'm delighted in the way it's been done by everybody involved, with Craig and Judy and with the U of T and with the City of Toronto, because they've had, I'll call it a competition. I'm sure there's some more polite word. I don't know if artists compete for things, but I guess they do, because we all do. But they've allowed a variety of people to put forward their versions of the story. And it may well be the case, you hope so, that if there's one that goes up, there are 4 others that find a home or a life somewhere else. And so I'm just here to say thank you to all the people involved, to say that I think this is a wonderful thing. Craig was pointing out that sick kids will be able to look out the window and see this. There's a magnificent light installation that's being launched this week right here on University Avenue, and the people that donated it was some citizens of Toronto that did it. Because they said when you looked out the window of all the hospitals, all you saw was this kind of street with traffic going by and so forth, and we needed to have something that kind of brought it to life, especially during the night. When you're in those nights, imagine being in the hospital at night by yourself, sick, whether you're a child or an adult. And so I think that's going to add to this as well. I want to invite members of the public who are with us today through the media to come and see these different concepts before October the 31st, because they're there for them to see. And I want to most of all just say thank you to everybody who conceived of this, to everybody who partnered in this. I think this kind of thing, together with many other things being done during the year of public art, but this kind of unique partnership between Terry Fox and public art and the artists are going to do something to inspire people. And heaven knows we need inspiration right now. We need hope. There's lots of reasons to be hopeful. All the reasons Judy alluded to in living in this great city are still there. But we've got to come out of this dark period, and we've got to come out of it together in a hopeful, inspired way, and continue to work together to make sure it stays a place that we're privileged to live. And I know we can do that. So thank you very much to everybody involved in this.
Thank you so much, John. Your words of wisdom and encouragement are so important. Thank you. And you're right, your team, John, that works, I've just been so impressed. And Carolyn Terrell, who heads up street art here today, your team, for all their hard work pulling this together. Thank you so much. It's now my privilege to introduce a fellow board member, my daughter, Windermere Jarvis, who asked me if she could introduce a special friend of hers that might know a thing or two about Terry. Windermere?
Today, we have the honor of celebrating the illustrations of Terry Fox's legacy for the Legacy Art program. These murals visually represent how Terry's journey did not end with his final step, but how others took it to the next step. An individual who was instrumental in contributing to Terry Fox's legacy is his brother, Daryl Fox. I have the privilege of introducing Daryl today, and I wanted to do so by sharing what Daryl's legacy means to me. Daryl has shown me what it means to be a supportive sibling. In the summer of 1980, Daryl Fox left high school early to join his big brother Terry in New Brunswick for the Marathon of Hope. What a beautiful demonstration of putting your priorities aside as a high school student. No more sports, no more dances, no more friends, just to be by the side of your brother when he needed it, to embark on the Marathon of Hope. I also had the privilege of spending some time with Daryl and his family throughout his friendship with my dad. From that time, I've learned that Daryl has the most incredible capacity to support and be there for others. You are there for the big things, like dedicating your life to the Terry Fox Foundation, and you are there for the small things, like cheering on every single person who crosses the finish line, or doesn't, for the Terry Fox community runs. When you're with my dad, Daryl and Craig seem to think that their legacies are stand-up comedians. But to me, your legacy, Daryl, will be the unbelievable support and love you have for your family, for the causes closest to you, and of course, your legacy will be forever as a great Canadian. So thanks for coming.
Well, thank you very much, Windermere. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Nolan. Thank you, Somerset, the Jarvis family, for always being there for all things Terry. I'm not deserving of those words. I'm just one Terry Foxer who has this incredible gift of representing Terry Fox, 41 years removed from the Marathon of Hope. I'm able to see his legacy at work every day of my life, and it's an incredible gift. I also want to thank Mayor Tory for your very kind and very moving Terry words. One of the many perks of being a member of the Terry Fox family is participating in events such as this 40 years after Terry's Marathon of Hope. Terry himself would not be comfortable with this recognition and quick to hand off to those experiencing cancer, as he would feel they were far more deserving of the acknowledgement. July 11th, 1980 was a significant Marathon of Hope moment. I am not with you physically today, but the memories of July 11th are so real and powerful that I feel like I'm once again on University Avenue, and Terry is there in front, running strong, leading us all, as he still does today. I believe the photos of Terry taken running down University Avenue are the most powerful and iconic images of all the photos that captured the Marathon of Hope. There may be a reason for this. As we all know, the Marathon of Hope was a fundraiser, and Terry's goal was to raise $1 from every Canadian. Terry believed he was only doing the running and hoped Canadians would do the more meaningful work and give. Well, on July 11th, the residents of Toronto confirmed that they not only received that message, they acted on it. As Mayor Tory might have shared, over $100,000 was raised on July 11th, 1980. Terry was exhilarated and rejuvenated. He fed off the people that lined University Avenue, and that additional strength and motivation would be within him long after he ran past the city limits. Now, with the addition of a Terry Fox mural at 500 University Avenue, that day will be remembered and inspire for many years to come. Now the family needs to share a few thank yous. Sincere thanks to the City of Toronto, Street Art Toronto, the University of Toronto, and the Legacy Art Project Toronto for acknowledging this significant Marathon of Hope moment. We have enjoyed the experience of being involved in this Terry initiative, and that is in large part due to the care and hard work of Carolyn Taylor and Michael Hutchison at Street Art Toronto. I can hardly wait for the artists to present their work. Terry's niece, Jessie, and I accepted a position on the committee to select one of the 5 murals. Now we need your help. We are just a little concerned with the responsibility we have now been given in making this incredible decision. Big kudos to the artists who put their hearts and souls and a lot of Terry into their work. Thank you very much. And Craig, I was awake. You don't remember, but I was up every morning at 4:30 during the Marathon of Hope. So I was here on standby, okay?
Daryl, you are a morning person. Thank you. Boy, your words ring loud and clear today, just like they did 41 years ago that Mary Tory was talking about. And to make you feel more at home, Daryl, we've had the event today on a rainy day to make you feel at home here in Toronto. It's a rainy day. We're all huddled under this building here, and it's raining outside, so making you feel better. Thank you, Daryl, for those words. And I'm looking forward to the the artist as well speaking. Thank you for that. And what an introduction, Windermere. Thank you so much. I think Mayor Tory was tapping me on the shoulder. He'd like to hire you to do some of his introductions, not me. That was very good. And so thank you. And so that was very good. Now, Daryl, it was 2 years ago, you and I were traveling up and down University Avenue looking for a spot for this mural. And we found a few locations, but none as good as this one right here. This was our favorite. And fortunately, I picked up the phone and called Mark Maloney of U of T, and I said, Mark, you haven't met me before, but I've got 2 daughters going to University of Toronto. He said, well, that's great. What else you want? I said, okay. I said, can we use your wall on University Avenue? He thought it was a bit of a weird request at first. When I shared with what we're thinking of, he decided to move it up the ladder. And here we are today. So with that in mind, it is my pleasure to introduce the Executive Director and Chief Curator of the U of T Arts Centre and Professor of Architecture and Design. Warm welcome for Barbara Fisher.
Thank you so much, Craig. Thank you for the words. And I'm so honored to take part in this exciting event, the unveiling of the 5 artists, Terry Fox Tribute Mural Design Concepts, as a member of the advisory committee also. Having worked as a curator of contemporary art for many years, I know from experience that art sometimes is in the wrong place, or that it happens at the wrong time, and that it seems to not belong in its own time or ever find the right place, a place where it really can be said to belong. This is sometimes a problem for public art also. I believe that the Terry Fox Tribute Mural will be coming to the right place, and it arrives in perfect time. For one, its launch coincides with the city's new engagement with public art, a 10-year long-term initiative which will see the city transformed by the visual arts as never before. Marking this important initiative, the mural will be a tribute to the ways in which the visual arts can contribute to the city's cultural life and to public memory, and transform everyday lived spaces through a multiplicity of artistic voices and aspirations. 2. Right. The tribute may be long in coming, as it is over 40 years since Terry Fox's momentous and transformative journey began, but it comes to the right place. As a member of the Distinguished Community Advisory Committee from the elders, family, longtime followers of Terry Fox's story, I learned that it was really here, as Daryl and Mayor John Tory also mentioned, that it was on this street that his marathon really came to ignite the public imagination, and that people began to pay attention to his challenge, his voice, his efforts, by rising to the challenge themselves, supporting his dream that cancer can be beaten. 3, located on University Avenue, it is not just that the mural is given a special place along a major artery in the city, but rather the mural will mark this avenue, underscoring and perhaps making newly visible the role that hospitals, research centers, and the universities play in research that is so very much the heart of the Terry Fox's heroic achievement. The mural will be nested amongst the University of Toronto affiliated University Health Network, including the Toronto General and Toronto Western Hospitals, the Princess Margaret Cancer Centre, and imbuing Terry Fox's presence, the heart and soul of their critical public purpose. Finally, mounted here on the University of Toronto's Rehabilitation Science Institute, the mural will be a wonderful marker of the ongoing partnership between the City of Toronto and U of T, one that extends from the many special initiatives of U of T contributing to this year's ArtworxTO 2021, to the university's dedication to contribute and improve the health and well-being of the city and region, promoting further research and success in teaching and learning, which is so integral to the national and global and local impact of Terry Fox's legacy, with nearly $1 billion raised for research so far. I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues at U of T who've supported this important initiative, the Office of Government Relations, Chief of Staff, as well as to the committee members Elder Wabagoon, Daryl, Craig, Leslie, Katrina, Jesse, Windermere, and Patricia, for sharing your personal and cultural memories and recollections of Terry Fox, his life, his ways of being, his humility, and incredible determination, his spirit and his values, and indomitable capacity for connecting with people across the country everywhere. Thank you so much, especially to the shortlisted artists today, for giving these thoughts your imaginative and creative considerations. It's my pleasure to invite Katrina Young, who is studying for her Master in Occupational Sciences and Occupational Therapy program here at the University of Toronto, and who is also part of the Community Advisory Committee. Welcome, Katrina. Come on up.
I'm too short for this, so. Okay, so thanks, Barbara, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm delighted to be here this morning to introduce 5 outstanding artists who have brought their A-game to celebrate this Canadian hero. In terms of my own connection, I'm from the Tri-Cities in BC, where Terry was our hometown hero, so growing up, I knew him as a symbol of perseverance and determination. Currently, I'm studying to become an occupational therapist, so inspired by Terry's values and legacy, I want to be able to help, support, and advocate for my future patients of all ages and abilities to engage in the activities that are meaningful to them, even in the face of challenge and adversity. So that's why when Street Art Toronto invited me to be on the advisory committee, I really wanted to get involved, and it's been a wonderfully engaging experience. So starting from co-creating a theme statement for the art call of my fellow advisory committee members, to considering the work of talented artists to come up with a short list of 5 artists to respond to the art call with design concepts. And now the most difficult task still lies ahead of us, as you'll see in a moment. You're about to see and hear design concepts from each of the 5 shortlisted artists in their own words. After their presentations, you'll have an opportunity to ask questions. For those of you watching online, you can share your feedback at the URL at the bottom of your screen. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce the first of 5 artists, beginning with Artists Collective Alexander Bacon and Quentin Commanda. Just a bit of an introduction. So Toronto street artist Alexander Bacon has earned a global reputation for his signature graffiti style and vivid murals. He learned on the streets in the 90s from those on the forefront of Toronto's original graffiti scene and is now a master who mentors others. In 2016, he was thrust into the public realm with Machu Picchu, his contribution to Street Art Toronto's new 7 Wonders of the World project. This marked the beginning of his career as a full-time artist. In addition to commissions from Street Art Toronto, corporate and private clients, he has painted a wall for Miami's Museum of Graffiti, held solo shows at galleries, and been invited to international mural festivals. Over 33,000 Instagram fans follow his Vizsla_Bacon account. When not in studio or painting on walls, he's at home in Toronto with his partner, their new daughter, and 2 Vizsla dogs. Quentin Commanda, or Q-Rock, is a Nipissing First Nation Anishinaabe artist currently based in Toronto. He's internationally known as a rapper in all hip-hop and breakdancing media, and more recently, mural and graffiti artist. Q began his life learning his culture's teachings, approaches, and ceremonies through visual healing art forms like painting, dancing, leatherwork, and storytelling that were all taught through traditional Ojibwe and Odawa ways. Q's graffiti and mural art has matured quickly, from quick pieces into large-scale street art productions and canvas work, using the teachings of his culture together with a style he calls making the woodlands dance. He creates vibrant, meaningful artworks that are forms of visual healing and in and of themselves.
Hi. I'd just like to thank everybody for being here, and it's quite an honor to be shortlisted for this project. I'm not quite used to speaking on stage like some of these other people here who have lots of experience, so I'll do my best. I've partnered up with my good friend Q to do this mural because of Terry's Métis roots, and I thought Q would be amazing to represent that part of his heritage for this project. As you see here, I've one design but 3 different color choices, and I wonder if I have it here. And the word hope going through it and one without it. The one in the middle is the original design that I did, the colors and just some variations to show. What I have here is I have Terry in a heroic pose waving to the crowd at the very top, and have his prosthetic leg being the dominant leg, showing just to show that, you know, you can do anything and there's nothing holding you back. And so I thought that's an important message to show. Subtly, I have like a ribbon going through it, and it's a representation of cancer research, and you can see all the different colors in the ribbon, and that represents all the different types of cancer and research that the Terry Fox Foundation does. Going through it, I have a flower in there, which is an iris, which is a symbol of hope. And then what's nice about having the ribbon is I'm able to separate some of the elements in there that I can put in. And so I have another face of Terry, which is one of just sheer determination, and there's just no quit in the man there. And I just thought that's like a really powerful image of him. And then down on the very bottom there, I got children looking up at him and admiring everything that he's doing. And at the bottom of the ribbon, I have where Q would do the native art representation on the bottom there with beautiful colors. And he's going to explain a little bit more on what he's going to do there. Subtly, I don't know if you guys can see it, it's a little hard to see, but I have the word hope that would run through it. And my thoughts on that were, as you're driving down the street, you would see that kind of first in the background, and as you get closer, you get to see the closer details of the mural. And in the mural, there's lots of large imagery, but also smaller stuff in there, so people can appreciate the mural from many different angles and distances when they're looking at it. And I'd really like to introduce you guys to my partner Q, and thank you for listening to me, and I hope everybody likes the artwork, and I think all the other artists did an amazing job too, so yeah.
Anim, good morning. My name is Quentin Commander. My traditional name is Manitou Neiman. I was born Nipissing First Nations. It's the Anishinaabe tribe. And I moved to Toronto because of opportunity. I moved here because where I'm from, I really didn't see much hope. And being part of this project, being part of this city, has brought a lot of amazing, great, good, healthy, positive opportunities into my life. And when Bacon asked me to be part of this project, it was an amazing privilege for me to just, you know, to get involved. Terry Fox, to me, represents resilience. He represents so many positive things in the community. And growing up, I was always taught about, you know, Native, you know, people that were huge influences in history, human rights activists, and one person. The city's turning it on for us right now. I can't get any hyper than that. But it's just a really great privilege for me to be here, and what Terry Fox represents is something that I try to strive for every day of my life, and that's to do better, represent positivity in the community. As an Anishinaabe artist, I use a lot of sacred geometry and colors that represent spirit, that represent a visual healing experience. And what I would like to include is the 7 grandfather teachings. The 7 grandfather teachings is the value system. It's the principal guiding system of the Anishinaabe. It's humility, love, respect, courage, wisdom, truth, and honesty. And I feel like Terry Fox represented the 7 grandfather teachings. And so it's just a privilege to be here. I'm honored to be part of this list of other amazing artists as well, and I wish everyone a lot of success in their future artwork plans. It's an honor for me to be here, and just to represent my culture, and to paint with one of my mentors, because Alex is the reason why I actually paint murals. He introduced me to the scene I was just like a hip-hop guy doing my thing and didn't really have much direction. I asked Alex if I could like learn from him, and he helped me traject myself into a career as being a muralist. So it's just a privilege and honor for me to be here. Che miigwech. I hope everyone has a great weekend. Peace.
Thank you, Alexander and Q. So next we have Cristiano de Araújo. Cristiano de Araújo is a self-taught artist who was born in Anápolis, Goiás, Brazil. His earliest memory as a child is the moment when he discovered his love for art. His first years in Canada were a struggle. He landed a job as a bricklayer, which he did for a number of years, but his determination to overcome adversity and succeed led to his artwork being published in numerous magazines and newspapers throughout Toronto. Today, Cristiano devotes much of his life to his art. His endeavors include drawing, oil and acrylic painting, airbrushing, cartooning, and sculpting. Cristiano is the founder of Toronto Artist Studio, a studio of visual artists, painters, digital artists, and sculptors who design and produce murals and visual communications projects for audiences on a small and grand scale.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. First of all, I'd like to say that it's an honor to be shortlisted for this project. I'm a big fan of Terry Fox, and I consider him as my hero. When I first came to Canada, I remember my first documentary I ever watched here in Canada was a documentary about Terry Fox. I didn't know nothing about him, and I saw this documentary. I was very young, and was really captured a lot of my attention, and I was moved by Terry Fox from that day, and I never forgot. So I did paint another mural of Terry Fox in Barrie, and I'm very happy and honored to be shortlisted among all these great artists as well. So I would like to talk a little bit about my project. So I found the dimension of the wall very narrow and long. I found it a bit challenging, so I actually used that challenge to create the piece of what I did. So I decided to portray Terry Fox in a ground level perspective and foreshortening technique, which makes him more imposing and monumental. And he's also known for running a marathon, so that's why I wanted to portray him like that. So I wanted to, another thing I wanted to say too is at the background there's the short forest there, which is Thunder Bay. So I believe this piece, it represents the continuation of Terry. So it's him is still alive. You know, he's living forever. He's continuing from Thunder Bay. So he didn't stop there. He's continuing. That's what he goes. I also I wanted to communicate the support of Canadians for Terry Fox and his journey. So I decided to put a Canadian flag on his prosthetic leg, which represents support from Canadians and also symbolize Terry Fox carrying the nation and the nation carrying him. You can see in many other ways. It's open for interpretation, right? The Canadian flag and his leg. And I think this is a beautiful thing. So another thing I want to say about the kids, Terry Fox has a very strong connection to kids. You know, the kids he met in the hospital, the kids loves him, he loves the kids, and I thought it was important to have the kids there in the mural. So I have 4 kids there running besides him. All the kids are from different backgrounds, multicultural as we Canadians are, which is the beauty about our country, the multicultural. And all the kids represents, also another thing about the kids, each kid is going to be wearing an outfit from the indigenous culture, the medicine wheel, which is pretty sure everyone here is familiar with. So each kid has a color from the medicine wheel, which is black, red, yellow, and white. And also, as we humans, we have also 4 colors, which is the colors of medicine wheel, because we have the black, the white, the red, and the yellow. The yellow is the Asians, you know, the reds, natives, and black people, and white people. So if my design being selected, I also plan to, because those pictures of the kids is just stock photos, but I plan to actually have models of kids and take pictures of them. If I help with you guys and can you know, select beautiful kids that we can put in a mall, in a mural. You know, just so take the picture of the kids, and they're going to wear the outfit of the colors, and it'll be the 4 kids from that represent the globe, from different backgrounds. Another important thing too I add in a mural was on the bottom there, I have the stats. I think that's very important. It's very educational because, believe it or not, there's a lot of people who don't know who Terry Fox is. Okay? But also, what about tourists? What about visitors? People come to our city, they walk in an university, and they would see this mural and say, who is this guy, right? So I thought about that as well. So then there's, in his shirt, Terry Fox, Marathon of Hope, and then the stats there, it says a lot. It tells about his journey, what he did. So that's very important, it's very educational. Another thing I want to say to you is, as a kid, I've been creating art all my life. And this project is the most exciting project in my life. I'm very excited about this. And I remember as a kid, as a visual artist, I remember I was laying in the grass, and I remember looking at the sky. And I used to kind of see animals in the sky, in the clouds. And something I love to play. As a visual artist, visual oriental, I just can see, you know, beautiful things in my mind, and I can create. And then I was looking at the clouds and imagine animals. So then on the sky of the mural, I have the 7 grandfather teaching from the indigenous culture, which is when you look at the sky, at first you might just think it's a sky, and then if you look carefully, you're going to see that there's the 7 grandfather teaching there, the 7 guiding spirits that guided Terry. So they are, on the top there's the eagle, who represents love. And then there's, on the left, up left corner, there's the buffalo, represents respect. And then there's the turtle, represents true. And then on the bottom left, there's the wolf, represents humility. And then on the right, there's the bear, represents courage. And then the beaver represents wisdom. And the raven represents honesty. This is all quality Terry Fox has. So, and that's from the Aboriginal culture, the 7 grandfather teaching. And those are the animals that was guiding Terry Fox in his journey, the animal spirits. I think this concept is beautiful. I give my 110% on this because I love so much, and I work really hard, and that's my piece. There is so much to it. You know, I'm open. You know, there is a feedback from the public for changes. I'm open for changes. Some people, I was asking my friends about my design. Some people said maybe they want the cloud to be a little bit more defined. But my idea was not to be very defined. I want you people just to see the clouds and then they discover later. You know, something that it's a piece that can be, you know, discovered. There's a subliminal message there, right? So that's my piece. And I have also Ted Nisk over there, who is my mentee. Ted is a cancer survivor. He's a good friend and is a great artist, and he's going to be my mentee for my project. And I'm very honored for this, and thank you very much. I really appreciate you guys, and thank you everyone, and thanks all the artists. Thank you.
Thank you, Cristiano. So next we have Keitha Kishik Tobias Bazindam. So Keitha Kishik Tobias Bazindam is from Neashinigmig, Chippewas of Nawash Unceded First Nations and Delaware Nation at Moravian Town. Keitha has an eclectic range of interests and experiences from which she draws inspiration, including a love of creativity in all its forms, a love of culture and the similarities, differences between all living beings, which she believes makes this world so beautiful. She is especially inspired by nature motifs of Art Nouveau and Art Deco. The connection of spirit between us and nature of Indigenous art, the images, icons, emblems of Indigenous culture, and depicting emotions relating to her family, history, and current affairs. She is known for her blue-dipped pen and ink drawings, which incorporate science, history, current affairs, empathy, and gracefulness in her unique style, which she calls Native Nouveau, stylized N8V. She has taken on the duty to represent her Indigenous culture in a contemporary context. Her artistic styles will create a mural that is very much a part of present-day life, imbued with Indigenous knowledge of environmental responsibility, holistic wellness, a place of community and family with a shared future for all. Keitha was unable to join us today and will be represented by her proxy, Michael Hutchinson. Michael?
Thank you, Katrina. I'm not Keitha, but it's an honor to be here to help explain her concept for her today. So hope is the inspiration for this mural. Hope is something that everyone is in need of at the moment, and Terry had enough hope for the whole world. Tremendous hope is evident in Terry's face. Hope that changed the world and inspired millions then and today, decades later. The flowers were chosen to honor the land where Terry's ancestors lived. The prairie crocus of Manitoba and the wild prairie rose of North Dakota. Terry's Métis heritage, his Indigenous connection to the land and Mother Earth, are represented at the top of the design, with Terry running against the sunset backdrop. The silhouette at the top is of a windswept cedar tree, a common sight along the highways around the Great Lakes, and a sacred medicinal plant with significant cultural reverence and ceremonial roles. The image of Terry running against the sunset background highlights the capacity of persons with disabilities, need for accessibility, and inclusivity. The fall-colored maple leaf represents diversity of nations in Canada. The colors in the leaf are those of the Anishinaabe medicine wheel: black, red, yellow, and white. The 4 colors of the Anishinaabe medicine wheel have a multitude of meanings, some of which are diversity, 4 sacred animals, 4 cardinal directions, 4 sacred plants, and 4 colors to represent different colors of people. Che Miigwech, thank you.
Thank you, Michael and Keitha. So, next we have Emmanuel Jarris. Emmanuel Jarris is a Canadian-born artist and muralist inspired by the visual human experience. His work reimagines how art can exist in public spaces. For the past 8 years, Jarris has been working with communities across Canada and around the globe to produce large-scale portraits and figures among other images on wall surfaces. They can be found within major cities as well as across rural settings. He has had notable international recognition as a contemporary muralist and figurative painter. He studied briefly at the Academy of Realist Art in Toronto, but attributes his knowledge of art to various influences, including his grandmother, inspiration from graffiti, and resources found on the internet. The narrative Jarris depicts in his approach communicates a story of an individual spirit relevant to the metabolism of that particular neighborhood. A combination of acrylic, latex, and aerosol paint is used to create representations of the people he's inspired by along his travels. He enjoys painting in public space so that he can understand its context and express it through his work. So Jarris was unable to join us today and will be represented by his proxy, Anne-Marie Power.
Thank you, Katrina. As Katrina mentioned, Jarris isn't able to make it today. He's in Croatia completing a mural, but he is honored to have been selected to create a mural that celebrates the legacy of Terry Fox. It is Jarris's mission as an artist to observe life, interpret, and visually reflect these experiences. Through his mural work, Jarris was taught to paint from observing what he saw, through methods passed on to him by his grandmother in Saskatchewan. He continued to develop this method throughout his childhood, and when in high school was seeking out different mentors, books, and online resources to continue his pursuit of painting, specifically to further his painting of representational art. Around 2010, as street art and graffiti proliferated on the internet, Jairus was already interested in painting large scale, experimenting outdoors with different materials, latex, acrylic, spray paint, tools intended for hardware uses, but could be used to scale up. At 19 years old, he was drawn to schools in the city of Toronto, and talented artists such as Bacon and Q and everybody here and began working with TorontoMuralist.ca, which is a commercial mural company, and gave him a good foundation in professional mural work. It was around this time Jairus started to conceptualize how he wanted to create his own type of artwork, reflecting the things he was seeing and drawing in large-scale format. He started doing murals in the city that were virally shared online to the extent that he started to receive invitations to do it in other countries all over the world. Jairus has spent the bulk of the last 10 years completing large-scale mural work, specifically representing people, portraits, feelings, stories, and messages. For the story of Terry Fox, it's important to have Canadian heroes, icons, legacies continue on, especially for young people going through things, so they have someone as a hero to aspire towards. For Jairus, understanding Terry's story of selflessness when he was a young person really helped shape the way he approached growing up. The concept and story Jairus depicts here are all things he thought were telling the story of Terry Fox in Jairus's research leading up to this project. The image on the bottom, people following Terry, is very important to continue what he started, to continue his beacon of hope, beacon of light, despite all odds, to see people running behind him in support. This is the central message of Jairus's approach. Down at the bottom, closest to people's viewpoints seen from the street. In the center is Terry running down University Avenue, which is an extremely powerful image. Also included is the Ford Econoline Funcraft that he was living in, and a handwritten note as to what he was doing that day, running 10 miles by this time to get to this location. At the very top is a portrait of Terry smiling, an image that centers on an uplifting feeling of hope. Doing this smiling portrait is the best use of Jairus' skills as a portrait and mural artist, using everything he's learned along the way to make this iconic, monumental representation of Terry. He's not fully locked into these images because there was such a small window for the process to create the preliminary concept. Jairus is interested in continuing the learning, research, and development process of creating this mural with the Terry Fox Foundation to really represent his story and for it to serve as an iconic, long-lasting monument of inspiration for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne-Marie and Jairus. So last but not least, we have Jason Pinney. Jason has spent years developing his aerosol skills since discovering graffiti as a Toronto youth. Art has been a lifetime affirming escape and a way to process his surroundings. Oak had you opened his eyes to different approaches and techniques. Focusing on a dissection of color and light into geometric shapes and patterns, Jason's artwork creates a juxtaposition between the abstract and the representational. Thinking critically about the transformation of public spaces, Jason looks for interesting ways to use color, form, and shape to create visual landmarks to promote and evolve the aesthetic narrative of the city. As with all of today's shortlisted artists, Jason has completed a small and large-scale commission, or both small and large-scale commissions with Street Art Toronto, on his way through StART's career ladder for artists, as well as commercial commissions in Toronto and throughout North America.
Hey everyone, thank you for coming out today. It's a great honor to be here. And I just want to take a minute to thank the Terry Fox Foundation and the members for all the work they do. It's really important to me in my history, and it means a lot for me to be here today. When I was 10 years old, I was diagnosed with cancer, and I had a tumor in my left leg. I was admitted to Sick Kids behind me here, and I went through surgery and a long 8 or 9 period of rehabilitation. My story is one of beating cancer, and for that reason, being shortlisted for this mural is very important to me. You know, the hospital room I actually sat in, or I spent my time in, is directly behind me. And as a child, if I could have looked through the window over 20 years ahead, I'd see myself standing here right now, alive and well. At the time, I wasn't sure if I would beat cancer, and I remember sitting in the hospital room and asking my mom, you know, people die from cancer, right? And she's like, yeah, you're going to be fine, it's all right. And I was, you know, at 10 years old, I was just old enough to realize that, like, I didn't know what was going to happen, you know? I remember seeing posters of Terry Fox in the hallways of sick kids, and I can't say how, or it's hard to express really the importance of the work that he did and how it directly affected me and my ability to stand here right now. You know, I have a lot of appreciation for him, for the foundation, for all the doctors over at Sick Kids, and mostly for my parents as well, for going through that. And the older I get, the more I reflect on that situation, and really I feel a sort of gratitude and towards my parents, because I can't imagine having a kid at my age now and having them diagnosed with cancer and going through that whole process. My design is pretty straightforward. It's loosely based. I was watching a lot about Terry Fox. I was going through old documentaries, and there's one reporter talked about seeing him get up in the morning and hit the road at 4 a.m. And they talk about how he always got out there and he was so determined, but it didn't make waking up any easier. It didn't make hitting the road any easier. And so I had this image in my mind of Terry just like on the road, the morning mist, barns in the background, trees, just sort of like by himself running. And while I understand that now the Marathon of Hope is so much more than just Terry Fox, it represents everybody. I can't help but think about what was going through his head when he was there on his own running for the sake of all the kids he'd met who had cancer, just like I would years later. So I have 3 color schemes here. The one on the left, which is teal, is sort of represents my own experience. It's a color scheme that I use a lot. It represents hope. It's an uplifting color scheme. The orange one is more about the Canadian heritage. It's something I feel like we all identify with. And then the third colorway is sort of like kind of like representing science, technology, and the building which is going to be placed on U of T, which I have to say is a very appropriate building, as you know, right now there's kids being treated for cancer that are going to look and see that wall and continue to see that wall. And in a world where 1 in 2 Canadians will be diagnosed with cancer and 1 in 4 will die, I think that the fight to beat cancer is as important as ever. And as Terry Fox once said, cancer can be beaten. So yeah, in any case, I just want to thank you all for being here. This is means a lot for me to just kind of tell my story, and you know, I look forward to, just like they're saying, for the last 41 years, people have run down University Avenue here, as well as for the next 50 years, people will continue to run down. And no matter who gets the mural, they'll see that mural, and hopefully it'll continue the legacy and continue the work that helps kids survive cancer every day. So yeah, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate being here.
Well, that was quite a story. Thank you for sharing that, Jason. I'm so glad you're in good health these days and sharing the story, and you're so right. The kids from Sick Kids can look across the street. Mind you, that the reporter you were talking about happens to be here today. That was talking with Terry, and Leslie Scribner's right here. You might want to chat with her after. She's from the Toronto Star. She's the one that really deserves so much credit for keeping his legacy alive, because you started it all, Leslie. You believed in Terry. You saw the look in his eyes and the determination. You said, he's something special. I've got to follow him. So thank you for that. So it's an honor to have you here today. And Katrina, great job of welcoming everyone. Very good. well, you know, I mentioned earlier it's going to be an emotional and inspiring event, and I think other than the host being a little bit weak, the speakers and the artists, you guys did a fantastic job and beat all expectations. So thank you so much. It was very well done. The only problem I have is I'm a little confused. I still don't have a winner. I love them all. I think we all feel the same way. It's just they're so extraordinary. Barbara, I've got a request of you. If you could find 4 more walls at U of T, that would be very helpful. So if you can talk to the people, you two there, don't laugh, Mark. We're serious here. So thank you. That would be awesome. Don't forget my daughters are alumni now. They'll be making some donations later on. Today we have some special guests from the Terry Fox Foundation. Straight ahead, a new executive director, Michael Mazza. Thank you for coming out, Michael, and looking forward to working with you. And Jim Woodgett, the new president and science director, he's going to be making sure that all of those scientists are working together as hard as they can to cure cancer. That was great having you on board. And Denise Diaz, Director of Marketing, thank you. Welcome. You're a new member of the team, and they're delighted to have you. So that really wraps it up. I'd like to thank Kevin from Canderel Property Managers, Nia Clarington, for offering the space today, and much appreciated on short notice. He power swept this last week, and he got out the gardens looking nice, and he did everything. He came out on Wednesday with us. You've been a super help, so thank you for all your support. Appreciate it. Also like to thank U of T for the wall, and Mayor Tory. He is, you can so passionate. This is such a big thing for him, Terry Fox and the art. So it's really great support for Terry and his, for the Mayor Tory and his team. Carolyn, your team, Carolyn Taylor, Street Art, amazing the way you pulled this together. Thank you. I'd like to thank Daryl and your family for keeping the dream alive. It's incredible. Thank you for getting up early in the morning and being here today live with us. And a very special thanks to my dedicated team at the Legacy Art Project. They've been incredible through all this. Much appreciated. My last thanks is to, most importantly, is to Terry. Thank you, Terry, for what you've done. You're a national hero. We're very, very proud of you. So keep next July 11th, 2022 on your calendar. We're hoping to have a Terry Fox Day. We're going to run down University Avenue. We're going to celebrate the mural. There's another project that we hope to celebrate as well in Toronto and raise some money. It's very important to keep the spirit alive for the research. Also, if you want to go to our URL, share feedback with your friends and family for this project here. Well, what a great morning. Thanks for coming out today. Much appreciated. We're around. We've got some tea, some coffee and donuts, and happy to talk with the artists for a few minutes. Okay, kids, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Thank you.